This is Sean.
Is this the longest reigning SmackDown champion of all time?
Of all time. Since the beginning of history.
Is this the wrestling god?
I prefer that when the god comes out, it's kind of like G-A-W-D, God.
Well, JBL's with us right now, folks, fans out there listening, and I know you've been excited. Everybody's been excited about this, and we're so happy to have you on the show. And we kicked the show off tonight with one of your interviews, and I said when it was finished, I think he just stole every one of my words off of my interviews.
Hey, being original is just forgetting where you stole it.
I tell people, they say, how did you come up with all that stuff? I said, listen, I stole it from somebody else. Believe me, nobody invents anything out here.
They ask me all the time about Alberto Del Rio, who's doing a great job. They say, doesn't it bother you that he stole your gimmick? I said, he didn't steal my gimmick. I stole DiBiase's. DiBiase stole somebody else's. Alberto just stole something that I stole from somebody else.
That's what we always called ourselves anyway, gypsies, tramps, and thieves. So, but how the heck you been doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm down here in Texas right now. It's 10 degrees hotter than hell here right now. I am dying in this heat.
Well, I tell you, you could be out here. It's topped out right now at about 111. So.
Well, and they say it's a dry heat. So is a welding torch.
I tell those folks, I said, listen, if you think it's dry, stick your head in the oven. Tell me how dry that is. But before you came on the show, we were talking about one of these fellows from TNA had his check bounced. And so he went and told everyone that his check bounced. TNA, they said he was very unprofessional because he talked about the check bouncing. And I said, well, we'll talk to JBL because he's into economics and all the stuff going on around the world, and he wrote a book about having more money and having it now. I mean, is a man unprofessional to say my check bounced?
In this economy, if you get a check that bounces, I'd tell every human being on the earth that has ears. No, I don't think he's unprofessional. I heard that story. I find it hard to believe. Dixie Carter has really deep pockets, as does her family. So, I don't know what the truth is, but I'm certainly not calling him a liar. If he says it happened, it most likely happened. And if it happened to me, I would tell every human being that had ears.
Well, absolutely. There was no fellow over there in Texas that you and I know when he bounced a check on me, and I said something about it, and he got real upset, didn't he? And the fellow, he was up around Greenville or somewhere.
I know him very well. Absolutely. I tell you, I've had so many checks bounce, from promoters that, they'd write you a check and then they'd skedaddle, and you'd hope you'd run into them years later. Most of the time you never did, but when you did, it was a real pleasure. Yes,
it was. And, people ask me about what I miss about the WWE, and I said, well, I do miss a steady paycheck. And they said, well, how was it working there? I said, the checks never bounced. I can tell you that. That made, they called me the insane clown posse for this Juggalo gathering they had the other night. And they had, this is a name from the past, Buck Robley.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Kendo Akbar used to talk about Buck Robley all the time. Goodness grief.
Anyway, Buck calls me, and he was the one booking me. And he said, the last thing he called me about, he says, they want to cut your wages again. I said, well, they've already cut them once. I don't know about that. And he said, I've worked for these guys before, and it's hard to get your money. He said, no, they've guaranteed me that everybody will have a check. I said, Buck, I don't even check my bags. I said, I don't like that word check.
No, those checks didn't work. But, not at all.
Tell the fans what you're an international traveler now, and internationally known as a book author, or you're on television all the time doing things, and you have your own radio show. Tell the fans all about what's JBL doing now.
I'm really enjoying life. I've always wanted to sit back and relax and do things I wanted to do, and that's what I'm doing. I live in Bermuda most of the time. I'm in Texas right now, but I live in Bermuda. I work do a show for Fox News, a business show that airs on Saturday morning. So normally during the week, I stay in Bermuda till Thursday. I fly back. I do the show on Friday morning. It airs on Saturday mornings, and then fly back to Bermuda Friday night. I'm working with some great folks in Bermuda. We're putting a program together for kids using sport for social change. It's just I'm really enjoying working with the kids, the people that I'm working with, and I've got a few crazy things in line. I'm doing the marathon in New York, November 5th. I can't run. My back and knees are way too bad, but I'm going to walk it. I figure it takes me about 7 hours is what I figure it's going to take me, and I'm up to about 12 miles walking. So, and then after that, I'm going to climb a mountain down in South America, the tallest volcano in the world, Chiribazu in Ecuador, and my goal is to climb Mount Everest in about 4 years.
Well, I tell you, I'm always looking at the stuff on Facebook, and you're incredibly shrinking, JBL. Now, I wish I could lose 40 or 50 pounds and go out and walk 10 miles a day and up these hills. And I mean, you're like I don't know why you just don't take a camera and document all this stuff. It's
well, I'm waiting to lose a little more weight. I am the lightest I've been since I've been a teenager. I never could work out consistently in the WWE my last several years because my back was so bad, and I hated it. I hated being overweight. I hated with a big pudgy belly. Fortunately, I was a heel, so it didn't matter. But once I got done, my back started getting better. I'm walking all the time. I play golf every morning. Walk the course. It's a real hilly course in Bermuda. Of course, it's hot right now, so I weigh about as much as I weighed when I was 19 years old. I'm in the best shape of my life. I actually feel great. It's too bad I'm retired and not on TV anymore, but I'm probably in the best shape I've ever been in.
It seems like that's what we do, and when for some reason, when we're on the TV all the time, it's like we're too busy worrying about our travels and TV and of course, you and I did when we were all there. We had to sell tickets anyway. We worried about putting people in the seats. These kids now, all they have is time to work out, and but we tend to get in better shape when we retire.
Yeah, because we finally have time to work out when nobody's looking at us. It always amazed me, the junky stuff we used to wear on television. We had the oldest knee pads, the oldest elbow pads. We had stuff that was junk. And for some reason, it never occurred to us that maybe we should have some new stuff on.
Well, you know how we were. I guess that's why you had so much success with that book you wrote, How to Have More Money Now. We didn't want to spend any money.
No, we didn't want to spend any money. It's amazing how cheap guys were. I always said Owen Hart was not really that cheap. He just enjoyed the game of not spending money. Owen Hart would ride with a couple of, not a derogatory term, fans, marks, whatever you want to call them. He'd ride with them for hours and stay with the marks, just so he could come and brag to Davey Boy that he did not spend any money for a hotel room. It was amazing what Owen Hart used to do to not spend money, and to him it was a game. He enjoyed it. It was almost a rib on himself.
Well, Brett was the same way. He had people that drove him, and he stayed in places, and he did all that stuff too. And that was going to bring me to, because I know you had a companion early on there, Dutch Mantell. Now, was there any guy any cheaper on the road? Now, they talk about...
Let me tell you how cheap Dutch was. Now, I love Dutch. I love him like a brother. He's one of the best riding companions you could ever... He would sit going down the road and just make up stories. He's one of the best storytellers I've ever been around. I don't know why that guy is not on a creative team somewhere for a wrestling organization. I think that much of him. But Dutch would literally... I never liked salad, and I love eating steak. So Dutch would come in, he would get water and nothing else because it was free, and he would eat my salad, and that's all he would have during the day.
Yeah.
So that he wouldn't have to spend any money on meals. He would actually, as soon as I'd order the steak, he would turn and say he wants Thousand Island on his salad, and he would eat my salad.
Well, he would come into the restaurant in Puerto Rico where I would be sitting, and some other guys sometimes, and sit down. He'd order his glass of water, like you said, and he would watch us, and he'd say, "You mind if I have one of those French fries?" "Sure, go ahead." "That's pretty good. You mind if I have another one?" Those are not bad. Are you going to eat all those?" "Well, no. Do you want them done?" "Sure, I'll take them." So he would have a whole meal and never spend a nickel.
I figured we drove about 50,000 miles one year. I was just guessing about what we drove, and Dutch out of that drove about 32 of them.
Yeah, and boy, I tell
total,
you what,
not 32,000, 32 miles. He drove one time from Yeehaw Junction partway to Orlando, and he drove so slow on purpose so that I would get mad and make him pull over and get back in the driver's seat. I drove Dutch. It was like driving Miss Daisy. It was driving Mr. Dutch. I drove that man all over the world.
Yeah, and he's something else, and I wanted to talk to you a minute about this Vince Russo character, because we're going to take a break in a second. I'm going to play you a clip of this Ric Flair call-in guy the other day, and we've been having some fun with it, but he talks about Russo. But this Russo, I was doing commentary a little bit there, and he spent, and Jimmy Cornette brought this up on his shoot interview the other day. I saw a clip on it where Cornette said, "Yeah, they had a meeting. This Vince Russo was, all he could talk about to Vince was, that's Vince McMahon. All he talked about was, him and Vince, was how much time they could give Sable on television, how he could get Sable on TV and let her go out and do her T-shirt thing, and on about Sable." And Jimmy Cornette, then Russo brought up, said, those guys with Southern accents, they don't work well on TV as commentators. So he would bump me from being on my commentary segment to put Sable out there to pull her shirt off in front of the people. But I think you had a run-in the same way with him, where did they want you to change your voice?
They wanted to change the way I talked, literally. He was talking about JR one day, and I don't get how he's working with Jeff Jarrett and Dixie Carter, two Southerners, because he was listening to JR, and he said, "I don't see how anybody with a Southern accent has any credibility. They all sound stupid." And he wanted JR off air so bad. Here's the best play-by-play guy in the history of wrestling, or at least close, depending on your viewpoint. He's one of the top best, one of the tops no matter what you think. He didn't want him on air, so he didn't want me talking. He had that little stooge, Ed Ferrara, try to teach me how to talk without an accent. I said, "Look, I'm going to leave and go to Japan. I'm not going to talk without an accent." When he walked out one time and he told us, he said, me and Ron Simmons were walking out on stage. We're working with, I think, Undertaker and Kane, and he told Ron, he said, "Don't let John talk." And Ron got out there, said one sentence, and handed me the microphone on live TV. I had no idea he was going to do that. I had probably 4 more minutes and cut the best promo I could, but that's how good Ron was. But Russo really thought Southerners just sounded stupid, and he didn't want to use them at anywhere.
Well, he was the culprit behind me up and just finally saying, "The heck with it, I'm leaving. I'm done with this." But anyway, if you can stay with us, we're going to play this Ric Flair clip for you, and then when we come back, we're going to talk Royal Rumble that you and I have fond memories of. So, Steve, if you'll play that clip, and then we'll be back with JBL.
Yep, okay, guys. We'll be back live on Chick, Rattle, and Roll in a few moments with the Honky Tonk Man and the wrestling god, JBL.
For the last 5 years, you've been calling me saggy ass, and I've had enough of it. Do you understand? I'm the Nature Boy Ric Flair. I'll give you respect, but you give me respect, you son of a bitch. Russo is working under the table for McMahon like he has been for the last decade to keep each and every other company down. You hear what I'm saying? It's a bombshell right now. Woo! Yes.
Actually, very loud.
I'm very loud,
disturbing a lot of customers.
Do you hear this? I'm disturbing a lot of customers. I got to get going. Do you hear this? Honky Tonk Man, you son of a bitch. Now I'm getting arrested. Do you understand? No, they call. You didn't call a cop.
That Hulk Hogan tweeted, "He doesn't want you to hear. Shake, rattle, and roll, brother."
Welcome back, Shake, Rattle and Roll fans. You can call us live on 805-727-7113. We're live with the greatest Intercontinental champion of all time and the wrestling god, JBL.
Did you get to hear that?
That was great. Absolutely great. You know, I don't ever met anybody who's liked Vince Russo. I don't know how he still has a job. Look, I've got no heat with those guys at TNA. I actually like them. Like Dixie, I like Eric. Bruce Pritchard is one of my very best friends in the world. But I don't get why they keep Russo. You know, Russo, when he left WWE, went to WCW, they went bankrupt and got bought by WWE. That tells you what kind of job he did, and the guy still has a job in wrestling, and a guy like Dutch Mantell doesn't. It blows me away.
I don't get some of the stuff that obviously Jeff and this fellow Russo are very close, and even Hogan, he had to apologize to Russo. I guess they had a big verbal war going on at the pay-per-view the other day, but. I don't know what you'd be fighting about. I mean, they had a buy rate of 7,500 people.
And I don't understand that. You know, I don't understand why WCW didn't have better buy rates when they had those great stars back when they were in competition. They were killing us in the ratings, but their buy rates weren't that good. And you've got some great stars right now in TNA. I mean, you got recognizable worldwide figures. You know, Kurt Angle's one of the best of all time, and those guys just can't do a buy rate for some reason, and I don't know why that is.
I don't either. I fail to understand. They go out. They try to go out on tour. They draw 400, 500, 800 people. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't
either. And those same guys drew money. You look at the Dudleys. You look at Rob Van Dam. You look at Jeff Hardy. You look at Kurt Angle. They've got a lot of great stars down there. Jarrett, I mean, all those guys drew money at WWE, and I don't know what it is about what they do that causes them not to be able to fill arenas, but they've got a lot of great talent. You would think they could put a lot more people in seats and on pay-per-views than what they do.
And WWE, on the other hand, can take some kids out of Florida where they take them down and keep them for a couple of years in a training camp, throw them on TV, and make stars out of them in 6 months.
Yeah, and WWE can literally put just the initials WWE on a banner and pretty much sell out buildings. You know, they've built a better machine over time about how to do local promotion, how to do local publicity, how to buy TV advertisements better. It's just that they have a machine in place. That's why it's so hard for anybody to compete with those guys. They've been building that for generations, what they do now.
Yeah, there's no one can compete. I don't know why anyone really would even try. These people pop up all the time, and as soon as they say, yeah, we're going to give WWE a run for their money, I said, just pay me. Give me cash, okay?
That's all that matters. You know, with worldwide pay-per-view that's coming on the Internet, you know, somebody's going to be able to do some type of competition, but you're right. There's nobody can compete with WWE. It's the machine of the organization. You know, you look at – I remember when Bret Hart left and went to WCW, which is going to bring up the story about the Royal Rumble when you almost killed me. When he left, I remember looking at Jack Lanza, who was one of the greatest agents of all time, and I said, man, what do we do now? Lanza looked at me, he was smoking a cigarette, and just rolled his eyes and shrugged his shoulders. He goes, what does it matter? He said, we lost Hogan, we lost Warrior, business always comes back. And that was the first time I realized that as great as some of these stars are, they're all replaceable. You know, there's not going to be another Stone Cold or Rock, but there's not going to be another Cena either, but you're going to find something to put out there. It's the machine that builds these guys, and that's an amazing thing that Vince and Kevin Dunn have done over the years. Yes,
and you know, they took a lot of Dick Ebersol, which I figure Dick Ebersol is a shoe-in for the Hall of Fame this year, for them, and but they took that Saturday night main event strategy that Dick Ebersol had, and they have made every show a big event.
Yeah, and it feels like a big event. You know, it's the circus coming to town. I've always said Vince, in a good way, is a modern-day P.T. Barnum, and he is. The sucker can promote absolutely anything. I just did an interview today with ESPN Magazine about the affiliation of WWE and the troops since 9/11. The 10th anniversary is coming up, and all the things WWE has done. It's just remarkable what this organization has done and what they've built over time.
It's one of those things that it's like you said, and to get back to the Hogan tour, Vince, WWE called the building in Halifax and Nova Scotia, which they go there once every 2 years maybe. They called that building and they said, listen, if you put the Hogan show in the building, we'll never come back there. Well, the Hogan show got moved 15 miles down the road. But that's the power, like you said, that's the power they have. And you're getting pretty powerful yourself, like I said, with all these things you're doing and the energy drink. You got that company going. How many companies are you running anyway?
I'm not running any. I got a bunch I'm invested in, which is great. I love investing in companies, and I love what I'm doing on social network. I'm having fun. The stuff I do with Fox. I'm one of 5 people on the show. So even though we're talking about stuff and I have some creativity, I got all the creativity I want with my radio shows, JohnLayfieldShow.com. But that's where I'm also going to be building a website that has video, interaction, news, all kind of things, and I'm just enjoying it. It's a great expression for me, and the companies that I've got, I enjoy investing in companies. I enjoy investing in these entrepreneurs that really think they can take on the world. I think it's just amazing that, being a wrestler, you and I understand this, buddy, it's just you. We never had a safety net. We didn't have health insurance most of the time, and if we didn't make a living, nobody bailed us out. And that's something that is gone now. It's actually better for the boys, but man, what an experience it is when you realize if I don't make this show and get paid, I don't have rent money. That's something that makes you grow up pretty fast.
Yes, it does, and I've always tried to in the seminars I give to the young aspiring wrestlers out there, and I do it around the world, and I tell them this. If you have a good, steady job and you get some benefits, don't quit that job to pursue this wrestling. You have a better chance of being in the NFL or a Major League Baseball player than you have a chance of making it in the wrestling business right now.
Yeah, I remember, and anybody who wrestled very much at all during that time can tell the exact same story. It'll be a different injury. It'll be different towns. I was living in Europe, and I break a couple of ribs. I don't have time to take any time off. Got no health insurance. Got no pain pills because I was scared of getting addicted to them. So I drink a little Jack Daniels before I go to the ring every night. I wrestled 117 straight nights. Now this story is nothing unusual. You've done this. Everybody that was around did this. Wrestled double shots on the weekend, all with broken ribs because I didn't have an option. I didn't have the option of saying, "Hey, I'm hurt. I can't do it." If I didn't work, I didn't get paid. So it was hell. I mean, it was about 6 weeks of pure hell. Every time I touched the ropes, every time I hit the mat, I just felt like my lungs were going to pop out of my body. And that's something that's actually changed for the better. But you really learn the art and the appreciation of the theater that is sports entertainment or wrestling or whatever you want to call it when you have to go through that. Yes,
and you spoke about the insurance thing, and I never went to the doctor. I never went to the hospital. I didn't go to the dentist for 20 years. My wife finally got a job out here with the school district and got on full time, and that's when we finally got insurance. And we've had insurance now for 8 years. Before that, I had none. Yeah, I remember that. What leads up to the story of the Royal Rumble, it was when talking about Bret Hart leaving to go into WCW, me and Barry Windham were together, and that's when Vince Russo was there, and he didn't like us. He wasn't going to use us, and I really thought I was probably going to go to Japan and finish out my career there. WCW had never talked to me at the time, even though guys were starting to jump. I wasn't a big name at WWE, so nobody cared. But when they had the incident with Shawn and Bret in Montreal, 2 days later, me and Barry Windham go to Japan to be in Baba's All Japan Tag Tourney. And I love Japan. I idolized Stan Hansen. I thought Doc was one of the best guys in the world. Had a blast over there, and I really planned on staying. But toward the end of the tour, Kobashi catches me with that spinning back fist he did for a finish, right in the neck, and I get the worst concussion I've ever had. I can't even sit up. I won't tell anybody how bad I am. Barry Windham was the only guy who knew how bad I was. Well, WWE, my contract's up. I can't tell them that my contract's up. I mean, that my head is
splitting wide open with the concussion because I'm in negotiations for a new contract. So I don't tell anybody. I'm having to wrestle everywhere, and I can't even sit up straight. It's so bad. And Jim Ross calls me. He was wondering if we're mad about the Bret Hart Shawn Michaels deal. I'm not mad about anything. I can't even answer the phone because the ringing hurts my head too bad. So on the way back, they asked me, said, hey, come to New York straight from Japan. And I said, guys, listen, I'm out of shape. I haven't been tanning. I look terrible. I said, how about I come in January? I'm trying to buy myself enough time with this concussion to get well so I can hopefully get another contract. And they think now that I'm leaving to go to WCW. I run into Eric Bischoff in the Narita airport, and it adds to the rumors that I'm going to WCW, which I was never going to WCW. So when I get home, my answer machine, way before cell phones, was full, and they want me to come to Connecticut. And I said, guys, listen, I'm making another excuse up. So they end up signing me to a 5-year contract. The most money I've ever made in my life. I could not believe what they offered me. They think I'm going somewhere else. I wasn't. I'm hurt. I can't even get out of bed. And so what they say is, they say, hey, come up, we'll start you at Next TV. So I postponed it again. I said, hey, let's wait. And so finally my first TV back was the Royal Rumble, where you almost killed me. so that's the backstory leading up, which you probably never knew before, that I had not even taken a bump. I had not been on the Stairmaster. I don't know how my head's going to react. So when I get there that day, I've not wrestled in over 6 weeks. They want to push me. So they want me to be in the Royal Rumble for about 45, 50 minutes.
Yep.
I am horrified. I am not in shape to stand on my feet for 50 minutes. And they put me out there, and I'm about to die. In you come, and you start firing on me. You said, fire back. And all I could say was, I can't. And you started laughing. You thought it was funny, and so you put me on the ropes, and you're literally smothering me. Now, you think it's a rib. I am about to pass out and die. And ever since then, I've hated you.
Well, you did tell me. You said if I can make it back to the locker room, I'm gonna kill you.
That's what I told you. I couldn't even get on my feet. I remember telling you that. You had me on the ropes. You're laying on me. I can't breathe. I am so worn out. I hadn't done anything in 6 weeks. And I remember telling you, if I can make it back to the locker room, I'm going to kill you. And you were just laughing, just like you are now, thinking how funny it was.
You know, those are the good times and the good stories, and you're right. And they called me to do one of those dadgum things once, just out of the blue. They had it in New Orleans. Jim Ross called, said, would you like to be in the Royal Rumble? And I said, well, when? He said, well, it's just this Sunday, because I don't keep up with what they do. And anyway, I said, well, sure. He told me what it paid. I said, well, yeah, I'd really like that idea. Wife said, well, what do you think they're going to do? I said, well, they're either going to keep me in there for an hour and try to make me have a heart attack, or they'll get me out early.
Hey, the worst is to be in there like I was, to get the old proverbial push, where you come in about third or fourth and you stay in there most of the hour, but you go out right before the finish. So the only push you get is the announcer saying, boy, that John JBL's been there a long time.
They had Kane got rid of me real fast in that one that I was in about 20 seconds. They told me 1 minute, and before I went through the curtain, they said, we're short on time, 20 seconds. So I go out there, and I tell Kane right away, get rid of me. And they had kept him in about 40 minutes. And when we got back, I said, what, had you done something wrong? He said, why is that? I said, because they kept you in there for the whole hour.
And still don't win.
Yeah, and Austin came running through, slid in, dumped him out, and he wins.
Hey, when I first started in the business, me and Bobby Duncombe were a tag team and Dick Murdoch was our mentor, and he just wound us up. He'd tell us, hit people harder, hit them, kick them harder. Everything he'd do, it was a rib. It was a rib on all the other boys. So we trapped Mike Davis in a corner, Maniac Mike Davis in a corner in a battle royal, and he grabs his own hair and throws himself out.
Well, that's like that little Gail Kim did the other day in a battle royal or something. She was in with the ladies. She just dumped herself out and went back to the back, went through the curtain. And I don't understand why she thinks she got fired. Don't you understand? You're getting fired. But she said they showed her no respect, and so that's why she did it. And then, how about this? You like this story? This other girl, this Melina girl. She's a hot item with this John Morrison kid. I don't really know him, but I guess they cut her loose last Friday a week or so ago, and then she shows up, her and her boyfriend. He's still working there. She shows up for the Raw, and the security people says, "You're not allowed in the building."
Yeah, I heard about the story. I don't know what the heat is, but apparently there's something there. She's a good-looking lady, and somebody that you could use, especially WWE is one of the number one audiences for on Hispanic television. You need stars like that. I always thought she would be a massive star, and I don't know what has happened since then, but obviously there was some type of heat there for her to part ways with the company.
Well, and that's a good way to put heat on her boyfriend, too. If he brings you to the building, you've been fired.
Right.
But anyway, I know you got to go, and I was going to ask you about your golf game, but I don't know if you really want to talk about it, do you?
I ain't playing your son. I can tell you that right now. Not for any kind of money. As much as I practice, you would think I would be on the PGA Tour. I play golf all the time, and I just don't get any better. I don't get any better. I hate that stupid game.
I used to play every day like you did. I would play, and I would hit 1,000 balls a day, and I could never get better than shooting 8 or 10 over. I just and then somebody stole my golf clubs. I almost got my finger torn off doing a stupid guitar stunt, and I've barely picked the club up in the last 2 years. I just said the heck with it. I'm never going to – this is some game I'll never learn. I'm as bad as Charles Barkley.
I've never understood how an athlete as good as Charles Barkley, and he's a world-class athlete, looks like he's having a seizure when he swings a golf club. That is a world-class athlete. For him to have that golf swing is unbelievable.
I really think that golfers, that's the only sport they can play, because I've never seen crossover for somebody be a golfer, and next thing you know, he's a pitcher for a baseball team. But us guys in these other sports, we try to cross over into their game, and when they do that commercial, these guys are good. It should be all of those guys are good.
Yeah, I played with some golfers, and people say, man, why aren't you on the PGA Tour? And I've talked to guys who are scratch golfers, +3, and they say, because I can't beat any of them. And,
yeah.
And these guys, what we look at are just world class. Can't even compete with those guys on the PGA Tour. It's the level of anything. That high amateur level. Then when you go to the pros, it's just a different level.
It's a whole different ball game, and a lot of people don't understand it. And it's so many things that go in. It gets involved in playing golf. It's like you said, though. I'd never like to take the golf cart. I always wanted to walk, because I think it's the best walk a person can take, and be out and be in the beauty of nature and see all the things you can see walking on a golf course.
Yeah, it's so enjoyable. So many guys sit in a golf cart and load up a bunch of beer, which if that's what they want to do, that's fine. God bless them. They have a wonderful afternoon, and a lot of them enjoy that. I really enjoy getting out, like people who love golf, and walking the course. It's really one of the most pleasant walks you can possibly have. Now, when you're shooting 100, it is a bit the good walk spoiled, but it's a lot of fun being out.
I've just never understood a guy that would throw his club in the water or go break his club over his knee because he had a bad shot. I mean, the club didn't do it.
And it amazes me about Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods, the one thing that worked in his life was golf. Adultery was his problem. But what he does is he changes his swing coach. He changes his caddy. Golf was the one thing that worked for the guy. He was number one in the world when he quit. I mean, his personal life devolves, and that tears down his golf game. Don't get rid of your caddy. If it's a problem, get rid of your mistresses or get divorced, whatever. But it's amazing to me the one thing he got rid of was the people that made him number one in golf.
I know. I don't understand that thing. It's like, let's get rid of the coach because our team is terrible. Well, why don't you just get some better players? How about that? You know?
Right. I was in college, and some guy came in, he had a broken jaw, and the head coach said, well, he was in a bar fight, shows he's a fighter. I said, get the guy who broke his jaw.
Yeah, that's who you need.
Yeah, and he'd recruit guys, he'd say, well, we got to make them tough. I said, recruit tough guys. You don't get them here. If they don't bite when they're puppies, they ain't going to bite when they're dogs.
I don't understand some of this nonsense. I never will, and I don't ponder those questions too often, and because I got more things to worry about, like a leaking irrigation system around here, drip system I got to dig up about every 2 or 3 days, and somebody stealing stuff out of my garage, and I mean it's a never-ending saga here at the Shake, Rattle, and Roll. But we've had a heck of a time with you tonight. I really appreciate you giving us the time, because I know, like I said, you're busy doing all sorts of things. And tell the fans how they can get in touch with JBL and let them know that you're willing and ready to take on anybody in golf except this kid of mine.
That's exactly. There's 6 billion people on the planet. I'll play before your kid. Yeah, look, Honky, thanks for letting me promote my stuff. JohnLayfieldShow.com is my radio show. I got John Layfield Show on YouTube, Twitter, JC Layfield, my Facebook. I'm soon going to have it all on one page, JohnLayfieldShow.com. But it'll be a couple weeks. But right now, people ask me questions on my Facebook page, reach me out to Twitter. I do my best to answer them. You know, I was busy really being a heel for so many years that I never responded to fans, because, you know, when we broke in, heels were heels 24/7. And it's actually fun for me right now to respond to some fans' questions and reach out to as many as I can. I'm really enjoying it. It's a way to get back in touch with a sport, entertainment, whatever you want to call it, that I grew up watching and still love.
Well, I can promise you that tonight, as we speak, if we don't have 70,000, 80,000 people listening to us right now, I think about it when the show's over. And I think about standing maybe in Wembley Stadium right there with just maybe just you and I in the center, and have 80,000 people, and you and I just talking. But that's how this stuff works.
That's it. It's the basics of theater, and some people don't get that. It's just 2 people out there with no props, no nothing, just providing entertainment. It's the oldest form of entertainment in the world, and to me, it's the greatest thing that when it's done right, it's really amazing.
It's a great thing, and you've achieved so much success, and gosh, and you're always my friend. You'll always be my friend, and I don't want you as an enemy. I can tell you that. You're in better shape than me. But I thank you so much for being with us tonight, and the fans are going to go crazy, and I know that they wanted to call in and ask questions, but that's something we don't do. You know, we treat our guests with respect, no matter what Ric Flair says. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Mr. Honky Tonk. Great talking to you.
Bye.